our town board regular meeting for Monday, August 26, 2019 at 7:10 p.m. Ms. Iker, will you please take roll call?
Mayor Christy Melendez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ken Bennett.
Here.
Miles Baker.
Here.
Barry Wilson. Paul Redemeyer.
Here.
Tom Jones.
Here.
David Soslowski.
Here.
Mr. Baker, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on our agenda is review of agenda by the board and addition of items of new business to the agenda for consideration. Are there any additional items for consideration? If not, I would seek a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Renemeyer with a second from Dr. Jones, approving the agenda as presented. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the agenda is approved unanimously as presented. Item 4 is board liaison reports. Town Board Member Baker, Tree Board and Historic Preservation Commission.
Thank you. The tree board meets tomorrow night at 5 p.m. at the Windsor Recreation Center. And I did not attend the Historic Preservation Commission, but they had a work session on signage around the lake for the history of water in Windsor and its impact. So they're proceeding to work on that. That's it.
Okay. Town Board, Mayor Pro Tem Bennett, Water and Sewer Board.
No updates since the last meeting.
Town Board Member Renemeyer, Chamber of Commerce.
Since our last meeting, we had our regularly scheduled Chamber of Commerce meeting here in Windsor. There was nothing that really significantly came out of that meeting other than us talking about a couple upcoming events that I'll mention. The Chamber of Commerce is actually having a strategic planning retreat on September 9th, so I hope to have an update that night. That night will be a board meeting, the night of September 9th. So I hope to have an update on our strategic planning efforts on that day. And the 23rd of September is the annual golf tournament for the Chamber of Commerce at Highland Meadows Golf Course. And we are still trying to round up sponsors as well as attendees for that event. So yeah, that concludes my report for tonight.
Okay. Town Board Member Jones, Windsor Housing Authority, Great Western Trail Authority.
Great Western Trail Authority has contacted Omnitrax concerning this property line dispute that I've been telling you about just about every meeting. And Omnitrax attorneys have reviewed the surveys from back in 1905, and they feel that those are the proper surveys, not the most recent survey that the adjacent property owners conducted. So, to make a long story short, it looks like before we can start any construction, we're going to have to get some kind of a court, what's the term I'm looking for? Anyway, a
Injunction.
judgment or just to verify that this is actually our property, and then we can proceed with construction. We don't want to try to do anything before that, even based on this verification we've had, but we want to go out there with some kind of a court document to prove to those landowners that this is ours. Concerning the Housing Authority, had a meeting last week. They continue to go through their planning process for the Golden Meadows, the new seniors housing project that they've acquired the land for. And I guess I would like to request that on one of our work session agendas in the near future that we put a discussion of how we stand with the Housing Authority. And I don't know if they're going to be requesting any financial help this year or not. They haven't decided that. But they certainly need the moral support of this board to move forward with the new senior housing project. Because when they go before the state authority that recommends approval of these projects, the state wants to know that the town is behind them on and their support for the project, because they're going after tax credits, which basically is free money for these projects, and very competitive throughout the state. And so I would, I'd like to make it an agenda item on a work session if we could, and just get the board's feeling where we stand now. And that's all I have.
Okay. Town Board Member Kozlowski, Clearview Library Board, and Planning Commission.
Madam Mayor and those present, the library board meeting will be Thursday this week, but they did have a special meeting on the 15th of this month for an audit report, and they changed and had a different outside auditor this year. So they were very thorough, very excellent report, clean opinion. The financials are sound, and obviously in following the appropriate accounting policies. That report and their audit financials, I believe, are on their website. I did attend that. The Planning Commission did meet on Thursday. The two items that we have on our agenda were reviewed by the Planning Commission, referred to the board, and I guess I'll remind you, Madam Mayor, that I will read my disclaimer or disclosure during the public hearings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I have Downtown Development Authority and North Front Range MPO. I don't have anything to share since the last North Front Range MPO report that I gave. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 5th. Downtown Development Authority did meet last Wednesday morning. We kicked off our meeting by touring the mill. So the good news there is the mill, at least the first phase of the mill, hopefully the Mill Tavern portion, plans to open around the first weekend in October, followed by the week after that, hopefully the restaurant, the Italian restaurant that's coming, Cacciatore's will open, and then we will have two new restaurants joining us in the mill, and that opening will be in October. The brewery is still something in progress, and I don't know that they've actually signed anybody to date. Maybe Stacy, during the economic development report, has something else to share, but that'll probably happen in another 6 months or down the road that we will see that. But we are excited to see some definite improvements moving ahead, and some definite guidelines towards we're hopefully having a grand opening in the very, very near future. We then also talked about the discussion of the backlot and that project, and as you all saw, there is going to be a DDA and a town board discussion, I believe, on September 11th.
So we floated two dates, the 11th and the 17th. I haven't heard back from everybody.
But the 17th, the DDA already
Right.
has a retreat scheduled. Are
Right,
they going
and
to cancel their retreat?
So that was, Matt had said that could be, because looking at his availability, that was the only day, and he said that would be his low second place, depending on everybody else's availability. I think what I've seen from the DDA board is everybody said the 11th is the preferred date based on your 17th conflict. I've heard from most of the board, and again, there's not complete unanimity, but it looks like the 11th works for the vast majority.
So we will have the work session on that on the 11th of September?
Right now, it looks like the 11th will
Okay.
be the day, and it'd probably be 6 p.m., and it would be a special meeting, an executive session. So the intent would not be to have Brinkman back. I think it's going to be specifically for the executive session, and it'll just be staff and both boards sitting down to go over kind of the final financial program for Brinkman and seeing if there's a deal or not.
Okay. Yeah, and then September 17th, they do have a retreat scheduled that evening out at Pelican in the Fireside Room to go through their strategic plan for the upcoming 2020 calendar year. So, and that was really all the things that really, the wayfinding update, we are kind of on hold with that because the project manager that we had hired to complete that study has had some complicated health and then followed by personal issues, and now she's moving out of state and relocating. But we were told that we should get our final piece of information, which basically is the cost analysis that we were waiting for and the location for all the different signs, hopefully within the next 30 days. So that has been the holdup on that, and that concludes my report for my meeting. Moving on to item 5, Public invited to be heard. This is for individuals wishing to participate on a non-agenda item. And this evening, we have one person who wished to come before the board, and that's Kathleen Benedict. So if you would come forward and state your name and address for the record, and then you may proceed. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Benedict, and the address is 3745 East Prospect, Suite 205, Fort Collins, Colorado 80524. I just wanted to come today to let you know about myself and the heritage area that we are all within. I'm the executive director of the Poudre Heritage Alliance. That is a 501c3 nonprofit that manages the Cache la Poudre River National Heritage Area. The heritage area actually runs from the eastern edge of the Roosevelt National Forest all the way through to the confluence with the South Platte. So it does run right through the middle of Windsor. So as part of what we do as a National Heritage Area is we're involved in the interpretation and education of community members and the folks around us, tourism, and everyone else that has an interest in water, specifically water law and the development of water law and how the Cache la Poudre River played in that development, as well as water management and water uses in the community. So we are one of 55 heritage areas across the U.S. We were designated by Congress in 1996 as a river corridor, and then translated or transmuted into a national heritage area in 2009. We do receive some funding from Congress as well as from the community at large to do the interpretive and educational work that we do. So I came here tonight to invite you to our emeritus dinner. Our emeritus dinner, I think Crystal was kind enough to put an invite on your pages, but it is our second annual. Our first annual, we honored 4 members of the heritage area that were significant in creating the heritage area in their work through Congress and their work in the community. The 4 previous emeritus were Hank Brown, Senator Hank Brown, as well as posthumously Howard Alden from CSU, Attorney Rick Brady from the city of Greeley, and I'm forgetting someone. Oh yes, Dick Maxfield from the city of Greeley. This year we're going to be honoring Senator Wayne Allard, as well as Dr. Richard Bond from UNC. Dr. Richard Bond will be introduced by and spoken about by Dick Maxfield himself, and then Senator Wayne Allard will be introduced and presented at the dinner by Senator Cory Gardner. So we wanted to extend an invitation to the members and the mayor. If you'd like to come, please let us know right away. It is on September 7th, so it's coming up quickly. It starts at 6 o'clock with a cocktail hour, and then at 7 o'clock the presentations begin. So we hope you can join us there, and I'm here if you have any other questions.
Okay. Are there any questions for Ms. Benedict, Mr. Redemeyer?
On the invite here, it says RSVP by August 16th. Is that still?
We'll let you in. It's okay.
I just, want to make sure we weren't past the deadline.
We do. It is at the Greeley Country Club, and we are limited seating, but there are still seats available, so the sooner the better.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything
Yes.
else, Mr. Sosowski?
To follow up on that same invitation, it refers us to an Eventbrite website.
Yes.
There's no phone number here to call, and since it's such a late date, should we just still RSVP to that?
You can just RSVP to that, or you can RSVP to my offices, which I can give you that phone number if you want. If it's not on there, it should be.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see a phone number.
You don't see one?
No.
Just the website for the
Okay,
emeritus.
so
dinner.
the office, I'll make my folks answer all the phone calls. It's 970-295-4851.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else?
Thanks.
Thank you. And once again, I'll speak for the Windsor Severance Historical Society. They want to thank the Poudre River Heritage Alliance of their generous grant, because that really is what helped them get to where they needed to go for the statue that they commemorated in Boardwalk Park. So that was in part due to your special grant that the Alliance did extend to them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item B, the consent calendar. We have 3 items this evening under the consent calendar. Minutes of the August 12, 2019 regular meeting, Resolution 2019-59, and Resolution 2019-62. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the consent calendar as presented this evening.
Second.
Motion on the floor for Mr. Redemeyer with a second for Mr. Baker, approving the consent calendar as presented. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And it is approved as presented unanimously. Moving on to item C, official board action. Our first item this evening is a public hearing for the final major subdivision, Highland Meadows Golf Course, 15th filing, John Turner, Colorado, 80 Land Holdings LLC owner, Jason Sherrill, Landmark Homes LLC, the applicant, Mike Walker, TB Group, the applicant's representative. It is quasi judicial. Looks like Mr. Hornbeck will be giving us presentation, and I would seek a motion to open public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor for Mr. Redemeyer with a second for Mayor Pro Tem Bennett to open public hearing. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. Public hearing is now open. Mr. Hornbeck.
Thank you.
And Mr. Kozlowski.
Madam Mayor, for the record, I need to point out that I, in my capacity as town board liaison to the Planning Commission, I was present at the Planning Commission meeting during which this matter was previously presented and discussed. I wish to state that my participation in the Planning Commission proceedings has in no way influenced me in my capacity as a town board member this evening. I will make my decision and cast my vote this evening based solely on the evidence presented during this public hearing. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hornbeck.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Board. This final major subdivision has been reviewed in accordance with Article 4, Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. The site is located west of Highland Meadows Parkway between Crooked Stick and Colonial Drive and is zoned residential mixed use, or RMU. The proposal is approximately 16 acres in size, and the subdivision proposes 100 townhome lots with attached 2-car garages, clubhouse, and landscaped areas. Access is provided from 2 full-access intersections with Highland Meadows Parkway, and there is also cross-access to the property to the north and the undeveloped property to the south. The 100 units is approximately 6.4 units per acre. The applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting in November of last year, and a summary of that meeting is enclosed in the packet materials. The proposal is in conformance with the strategic plan as well as the comprehensive plan. Notification was sent to surrounding property owners in accordance with the municipal code. At their August 21st meeting, the Planning Commission forwarded to Town Board the recommendation of approval of the final major subdivision as presented, subject to all remaining Planning Commission and staff comments being addressed. Staff will request the following be entered into the record: application and supplemental materials, staff memo, supporting documents, testimony from the public hearing, and recommendation. The municipal code does include certain design standards and required improvements for subdivisions, which are on my screen for your consideration of this item. I do want to note the applicant is present for any questions, and that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? Did the applicant have anything further that they wanted to share or add? My question would be is, there were 20 attendees at the public hearing, and so were there concerns addressed? And are they represented here after the Planning Commission's recommendation?
I might ask the applicant if they could speak to the concerns they heard. I wasn't present at that meeting. I think we heard a lot of the concerns that are typical of multifamily development of.
Well, I know there's a lot of traffic related. I mean,
Right.
traffic and some visuals.
Right, so in terms of traffic, the site is, the entire tract around the lake out there does have a master plan, and it's being built in accordance with that master plan, and the density is actually a bit less than what was approved with the master plan, so they could be adding more units and more traffic, and their access points are in conformance with that master plan.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Sosowski?
Yes, thank you. So, and looking at these subdivision considerations, I guess your comment is that this particular subdivision would meet all of those requirements?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so it meets, okay, thank you.
Anything further? Okay, this is the public hearing portion. If there's anybody who wished to address the board on this agenda item, this would be the time to step forward. Okay, seeing none, if there are no further questions from the board, I would seek a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Motion on the floor from Mr. Kozlowski with a second from Dr. Jones to close public hearing. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. Public hearing is now closed. Moving on to item 2, resolution 2019-60, final major subdivision, Highland Meadows Golf Course, 15th filing, John Turner, Colorado, 80 Land Holdings LLC owner, Jason Sherrill Landmark Homes LLC the applicant, Mike Walker TB Group the applicant's representative. Now we are at quasi judicial. Mr. Hornbeck, did you have anything further to add?
Nothing further.
Okay. Anything further from the town board? Okay. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 2019-60.
Second.
You have a motion on the floor from Mayor Pro Tem Bennett, the second for Mr. Rennemeyer to approve Resolution 2019-60. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the resolution passes unanimously. Moving on to item 3, Resolution 2019-61, final site plan for Highland Meadows Golf Course, 15th filing, John Turner, Colorado, 80 Land Holdings LLC the owner, Jason Sherrill Landmark Homes LLC applicant, Mike Walker TB Group the applicant's representative. Again, Mr. Hornbeck, did you have anything further to add for this?
Yes, this is the site plan associated with the previous 2 agenda items, which were platting the lots, whereas this is for the vertical construction. The proposal was was reviewed for conformance with Article 7, Chapter 17 of the code. Again, the site proposes 100 townhomes. They are broken up into 25 4-unit buildings. Each building has a footprint of approximately 6,700 square feet. It includes a small private front yard with each unit. The building features a varied roof line with 2-story as the predominant, with the end units being 1-story. And some different levels stepping down. There's a clubhouse proposed in the northwest corner of the property. The 6.4 dwelling units per acre is the density, which again is less than what would be allowed under the master plan. Parking is provided at 4 spaces per unit, with 2 spaces in a garage and 2 on the driveway. Plus there's an additional 62 guest spaces throughout the development. The building materials include stucco, stone veneer, and board and batten siding as the predominant materials. The buildings are set back a significant ways from Highland Meadows Parkway due to some utility easements. They are set back around 60 to 120 feet. And there's a minimum 15-foot landscape buffer along Highland Meadows Parkway. Additionally, there are trail connections throughout the site to the clubhouse as well as the boardwalk around the lake. The proposal is in conformance with the comprehensive plan as well as the strategic plan. At their August 21st meeting, the Planning Commission forwarded to Town Board a recommendation of approval of the final site plan as presented, subject to all remaining Planning Commission and staff comments being addressed. And staff requests the following be entered into the record: application, supplemental materials, staff memo, supporting documents, and recommendation. And the approval criteria in terms of the land use, zoning, and site plan standards are before you, and those have been met as well. And that concludes my presentation.
Any questions for Mr. Hornbeck on this resolution and site plan? Mr. Slusky?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real quick, you said you were talking about the setbacks off Highland Meadows, and the approval criteria says it meets all additional code requirements, and I think you said 60 feet, 100. What is the setback required?
I believe it's 20 feet is required, but
So-
they're exceeding that quite a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Is there going to be additional landscaping as per, I think, somewhere in here there was some kind of request, and is that going to be accommodated, or?
Yeah, there's, I think, fairly significant landscape along Highland Meadows that matches kind of what's been planted out there in terms of street trees, and then additional landscaping behind the street trees.
Okay, Mr. Bennett?
Yeah, same thing, landscaping. When we see these site plans like this, I didn't count the circles of trees, but is that accurate? Is that reflective of the actual number of plants and trees going in?
Yeah,
Or
this
that just
is,
representation?
yeah, this is the actual plan,
That's
so
the actual
the
number?
circle is a
That's
tree,
what I thought.
yeah.
Okay, I just wanted-
In the future, we can include kind of a summary of.
I don't need that, I just wanted to know. I thought that's what I was looking at, but I just want to make certain. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay. If not, is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 2019-61.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer, the second from Mayor Pro Tem Bennett to approve Resolution 2019-61. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the resolution passes unanimously. Moving on to item 4, ordinance number 2019-1591, an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Windsor Municipal Code with respect to the addition of youth members to certain advisory boards serving the town of Windsor. Legislative action, and we have our own town manager this evening who's going to give presentation on this. Mr. Hale.
Hey, thank you, Mayor and Town Board. Tonight, the board is considering on first reading an ordinance that would add high school age youth to the town's advisory boards upon your appointment. We're bringing this to you because this is certainly a theme that the town board has talked about in the past. We also know that there is an interest from the community. I think our recent 2 days with some high school age youth at Town Hall just kind of re-energized that conversation of there are a lot of kids here that want to be engaged, that want to be involved with the community, and we'd like to hear what they have to say. So the proposed ordinance would do a few things. One is we would add a youth member to these 3 different boards, but we wouldn't change the composition of the boards. So we would still have 8 members on the boards plus a youth. So we'd have 7 voting members that we've always had. We would have the town board ex officio member, and then we'll also add a youth who's a voting member. I know that this means that we'd have 8 voting members on each board, but these are truly advisory boards, and so they just don't have, if we said, look, the advisory board was split 4-4 on whether or not you should do this policy, they're still an advisory board. So we didn't see the prospect of them being deadlocked on something as being a real issue. And on the counter side of that, we thought that if we replaced an adult member with a youth member, then we would have some people right now who are serving in that capacity, who want to continue serving, who would say, sorry, we're going to give up your spot to, a sophomore at Windsor High School. We apologize. So Okay, second thing, I'm sorry. So, membership is limited to youth between the ages of 14 and 18 who live in Windsor. So we're really, as long as they're Windsor youth, regardless of where they go to school, if they're homeschooled, in any part of where they're educated, if they hit that age frame and they're in Windsor, they're eligible to be on the board. We are limiting them to 1 year, and so they can reapply, they can continue to be appointed. But, we didn't want the scenario of somebody kind of locking down a board when they're 14 and kind of denying that access to people throughout the high school. So we wanted to make sure that there was that opportunity for those seats to turn over. And then also, youth membership isn't really required. So if we have our water and sewer board and just for whatever luck, we can't get somebody appointed on that, the board can still function without that youth member. So it's just set up to be in addition to. I guess kind of a final note, well, a couple final notes. So one is we limited it to the tree board, pre-cab, and water and sewer because they don't have any or quasi-judicial proceedings. There's really nothing in these boards that could get legal or could get hairy. We would have probably had this before the board at least a month ago, but staff and the attorney really talked a lot about the historical board and whether or not there was something that we should have youth on. And we decided in the end because real property's involved and because we have a makeup on that board that requires a certain amount of background and architecture, it just got to be a little bit too complicated. So anyway, that's why we have those three. And then the final note is Mr. Stasowski pointed out this morning, and we appreciate you, sir, that the ordinance is presented had all the citings or references to the tree board as far as removal. So thank you for that. Kim Email made those amendments, so you have a clean copy in front of you that presents the ordinance as it should read. So I'm here for any questions if you have them.
Any questions, Dr. Jones?
Let's see, do all the boards have 7 members now, all 3 of them?
Well, they all have eight members,
mean,
but yeah, they all have
including
7
the-
voting members, that's right.
Okay, 7 voting right now. And how are you going to get the word out, just through the schools?
Yes, right now, I can tell you with the charter school, we've been really involved with the honors teacher. She's been really a go-getter and really involved. So I think just working through the counselors and the specialist teachers and stuff, I think we could really promote this pretty well through the different schools.
Because, well, these appointments, they're not going to be mandatory, are they? I mean, if we get somebody and
That's right.
Or we get applications we may have to do interviews, right, if we have more than one, but if we don't get anybody, it's not like the board won't go on until we appoint a youth advisory. I would assume that would be kind of like when we have a vacancy on a board, we would continue to probably publicize it, but.
Would they be interviewed at the
Yeah,
same time as the other,
Right, that's a great question. So what I'm thinking with these students is maybe to get them on a cycle, October, November, where we interview all of our high school students and get them on that 1-year cycle. So because they all have 1-year appointments versus all your other boards, maybe 4 years in staggered terms. So I think we would absolutely do the interviews for all these youth, and we would just try to get them on the same 1-year cycle where we do it just everybody together.
Okay. Anybody else?
Now,
Dr.
the water
Johnson?
board meets 6:30 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So I guess they'd be finished in time for school. If
They would.
If they can make it.
And some of these
that
kids,
would be-
I'll tell you again, when we had, engaged with these kids for a couple days and they wanted to continue on and we're talking to them about how they could be involved. And you talk to these kids about their schedules, and it's like, my God, we talked about having meetings over lunch. I can't, I've got debate on Monday, Wednesday, and I've got, whatever, saxophone practice on these days. I mean, these kids are really engaged and really involved. So I think that the right student could want to do that. I think if you're planning on going into engineering or, what a technical field, I could see this being highly interesting to somebody. So we could happen. Going back to my 17-year-old days, getting up at 6:30 for a meeting, probably not. But
a lot of the sports, because when my daughter ran, when she was soccer and cross country, they'll have training that starts at 5 a.m. So you'd be surprised if a kid really wants to engage or be involved, they will get up at the crack of dawn to attend.
That obviously isn't our town attorney, though, that's what.
Any other questions?
For our town.
Mr. Sosowski?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Only question, and thank you for town council for adding this removal process. I think probably we never even thought about it, and probably it will never come up, to be put into effect, but I think it spells it out, should it happen, exactly how this is going to be done. So I guess my follow-up question is that removal process change was added to these 3 particular boards and commissions. Do all of our other boards and commissions have a similar removal process, or should they?
I didn't, this was Ian's project, I didn't really review them, but I suspect they all say about the same removal language. So if this new removal language is what you would prefer, we could go and make that change.
Right, I think probably the latter. I think they all should say something along these lines.
Right, and I'm guessing right now
Yeah,
they don't.
and I'm with you. I'm guessing they don't either. But I think that my bet, and I'm going to speak for Ian not being here, is that he's got another cleanup ordinance that you'll see in the
Sure.
next 2 to 4 weeks addressing these other boards.
I would expect that, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Raymar?
Can I ask you to expand on what he's referring to remove them from the board?
Sure. So,
Because, like, I'm looking at one here where it's the red line where it says the removal of any tree board member, granted, it's talking about tree board here, but members shall require an affirmative vote of a majority of the town board members participating in the public hearing.
Right, that language was added. It wasn't in there previously.
Okay.
So my question is that language in all of our other boards and
so,
commissions?
so we
Okay.
So basically, we have removal language now. Ian looked at it and thought that it wasn't really sufficient, and so he's just recommending to update it in this ordinance. And Mr. Zaslowski's point is, we probably have the exact same old language for all boards and commissions, and whether or not we're planning on cleaning that up.
So the question is, does the town board have the authority to remove somebody from
Oh,
a
yes.
board that they've already been appointed to?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
that's-
absolutely.
They don't show up for meetings.
Anything else? I just want to say that I'm really excited about this because one of the things that I hoped to accomplish in my term as mayor was to try to get some really valuable youth involved in, because they are our future leaders, not just in our community, but potentially everywhere else. And so I think Jessica, she's not here tonight, but Jessica did at Jeff Humphreys, is that the correct last name? Okay, she did an excellent job this year in putting together that Youth 2-Day, and I hope that that continues to grow. And I think this is a second way that for those folks, for those kids who want to be involved or learn more, this is another great opportunity. When I go out and talk to kids in their schools, I tell them all the time that there are lots of ways that they can be involved and be leaders, and this is one additional way that the town can provide to them to take that kind of next step. So I'm really pleased and happy that we've gotten to this point, and thank you for putting all this together and all the hard work to make this happen. So how soon would we immediately upon this resolution set out to seek these appointments?
So this is first reading, so we still have to adopt the ordinance, but once that's done, I mean, staff is going to be working on promoting it, really reaching out to the schools. So I think we'll probably set a date, maybe 4 weeks from when it's adopted, and try to get the word out and get some letters of interest and have them apply. Really, we looked at the application that we currently have for advisory boards, and with the exception of a couple minor tweaks, it's going to be the same process. So it's a good application. Why are you interested in this board? So it seemed to still be really germane. And then I also wanted to add that we're really in the early stages of also looking at establishing a youth commission. So that would be a separate town-appointed commission that they could work on special projects in town. They could identify causes that were near and dear, texting while driving, youth suicide, whatever that is, and bring some town resources around that, whether or not they need to use our park, our awesome comms division, other people to help them promote events. So we're just really in the early beginnings of that. But I think on our way to really, like you said, Mayor, with our other youth camp, having multiple ways that we're engaging with our youth and helping to develop that next level of leadership.
And it looks like after today, we're going to have 175 third graders up here in a couple of weeks too to talk to them. So
right. Well, Ken's already preparing at home right now with his busy house.
Thank God. Yeah, I know.
Okay. Well, okay. Anything further? Nothing else, I would seek a motion.
Madam Mayor, I recommend that the board approve ordinance 2019-1591.
Second?
Motion on the floor from Mr. Kozlowski with a second from Mayor Pro Tem Bennett, approving ordinance 2019-1591. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the ordinance passes unanimously on first reading. Moving on to item 5, economic development update from Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Town Board members. I sent you this information electronically earlier today. I apologize I was not able to get it out in the packet. We're busy. It's awesome, but we're busy, and so I had to do a big bunch of data dump this weekend and get this information together for this report. So we've only had, so this is the report. Basically, it's an aggregate snapshot of the last 6 months. So the first 6 months of 2019 rather. So from January 1 to June 30th, this is what we're seeing. This is what's been going on in economic development. So we had one groundbreaking that we knew of, really, that we went to, which was Bobcat of the Rockies. We had a couple meetings with the state still, again, about the NCRTA. I think we're making some movement in regards to the tourism, the Regional Tourism Act. And then I was lucky enough to have several speaking events from January to June. So we had quite a few different variety of speaking events. Some I've been doing for years, some were new to me this year. Love any opportunity to get out there and sell Windsor and talk about how awesome we are. So, and then I also attended the Great Colorado Experience and the Ranch Master Plan. We did the Society for Marketing Professional Services, SMPS, and they came out and they did an event last week, I believe it was, and then they're coming back again, and they're going to have Great Western Industrial Park talk. So I will send that out. I believe I think I sent that out to Shane and the department heads in case anybody's interested, but I can send it out to you guys as well. It's a free event to attend coming up in the next few weeks, I believe. So far this year, we've had 61 prospects. We have a total of 67 that are active. We're still working, believe it or not, on 10 of them from 2015 to 2018, so ranging. A lot of them are most of the quick serve restaurants that we're still working with, trying to get them to find a location and make sure everything works. We had 12 companies that have come to town and visited since January, and as a matter of fact, I have another one that's on a second visit tomorrow, which is a good 100-employee company. It's going to fill a large building, hopefully, in town. We had 4 company announcements. Jill has done 40 business visits. We've had and assisted 100 miscellaneous assists for companies between Jill and I, and we've attended or gone to 82 community and outreach events. So different business after hours or different community events that we've done since January of this year. Again, no surprise, the majority of type of prospect activity is industrial. Over half of the projects are still industrial in nature. We have, what's interesting is most of them in the last 6 months have been in retail. So we're seeing this trend in retail, which is small startups, restaurants. I think really I have to give a shout out to Pat Ferrier at the Coloradoan for doing that article about restaurants, because I think that has helped us with the churn, and we've seen a lot of inquiries for that. And I've got some great homegrown ideas that are coming down and some other ideas that are chains. So I'm excited about that because I know that's a priority for everybody, and selfishly, including myself, I like to go out to eat too. So hopefully we'll see some more activity in that regards. But other than that, we do have 12 different industries that people are looking at or have requested space for or land. Our lead source, great, awesome, 32% is by company, which means that's fantastic. We're developing a great relationship with the companies, and they're knowing to call our department, or we get referrals from planning department all the time. So I have to give kudos to Scott and his staff, because they are constantly, we try to include each other in. I did another one for Carlin today because they had questions for a medical building space that wants to come in on Main Street. So that just came in today, and Carlin is going to help them out tomorrow and meet with them to talk about what the requirements would be for a site plan. So great relationship and referral from them, but getting a lot of great contacts from the companies directly as well. This is a flip from the last prospect report we did, it was 49% wanted existing space, and now we've seen the switch to 49% want land. I think that that's just a matter of what's on the market and what we've seen from what's available. There just isn't a lot of existing space in industrial. We had over 100,000 square feet of flex spec space last year, which means they built it on speculative, didn't know if they had it, it's already gone. So we've got another 25,000 square foot building that's coming online here pretty soon, and Highlands Industrial and some other areas have shown interest. But yeah, we're absorbing it as quickly as it gets built. So that is an interesting shift, though. And then another interesting shift that we've seen is, again, the square footage is under 10,000 this time. And we've had this uptick in weird requests for like 30 to 50,000 square feet of space. We have one building, it's yet to be filled, unless tomorrow goes really well. Then we will have none, which means we don't meet that, but I'd rather fill a building and have a lot of jobs here in town than have one sit vacant. So we did actually qualify for those leads. We didn't have any non-qualified leads in the first 6 months because we qualified for everything coming in. In the past, we'd seen a lot of 100,000 square foot requests, and we didn't see those requests in the first 6 months this year. So technically, we qualified for all the 61 leads that we had in the door this year, and we responded. So same thing, the good news is over half of the prospects still want to own their space, which is making an investment in our community, so we like to see that. That has not changed much since 2018 or previous years, so that's a good indicator. Again, for specifically BR&E, we had 40 company visits that should say 2019, and Jill is currently working on 5 expansion projects right now with existing industry here in town. Prospects year over year, we're probably on target to hit, again, about average of what we did in 2018. As I mentioned in previous reports, we talked about this. We switched over to a different software called Catalyst. When Xceligent went down, they didn't give us any notice. They were done and out and closed their doors within 30 days. And so it's taken realtors a little bit of time to get used to uploading all their prospect requests and their company requests and lead sources in this new software program, Catalyst. But really, it's the basic financial viability. It's the only option we have to subscribe to that's affordable for us to pay for that. So we do get quite a few leads from that, but hopefully as we grow and our name and reputation gets out there, we'll continue to get a lot of direct company leads.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
What do you consider a prospect? Is it just someone that calls and that qualifies them, and does it have to go a little bit further than that?
Well, they have to have a specific project in mind, or they're looking for space, or in Jill's case, they're already here and they want to expand in the form of either people, equipment, or physical construction space. So for me, it's usually their land or existing buildings, those two. So that's what qualifies them as a prospect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. Oh, well, there we go. Yay.
What a segue. I have another one then.
Yes.
When you said you had 12 prospect visits this year, is that a lot, or is that a few, or?
That's about average. That's really good for us,
It sounds
actually,
good, but
because that's companies coming in, and that's attraction prospects. So that's not companies that are already here necessarily, just meeting with Jill or both of us. That's companies flying in, like the ones from tomorrow, coming in again from Florida and Texas. I think they're meeting and coming in. So if they're flying in and they're coming here to visit our community, it's a pretty serious lead. So it's just closing rates with all that stuff. It's pretty competitive. We're still competing with this company tomorrow against Utah and Texas.
Okay. Just to get them out here is a big deal.
Yeah, twice. So.
Saying also other northern Colorado communities, right?
Yes, Weld County has several prospects, but they liked us best so far. So yeah, they liked, and I think what sells well for us too is that we bring them in, but then we also have Jill that works with them while they're here. So our advocacy continues through Jill and a BR&E program or business retention expansion program, and they like that. A lot of people see it. I got a lot of data from Eric Lucas because this last prospect wanted information on recreation and activity and all of those kind of things. So that played a key role into them, as well as safety. So I know the police department has given me stats on safety, and when I'm specifically competing against our neighborhood or neighboring communities, we can knock it out of the park because we have really good safety record here, and our community is safe. So I always ask them when prospects come into town, what are your top 3 priorities? So workforce is usually one of them, and then it just depends whether it's safety or different things. And then sometimes the incentive discussion usually works its way in there somewhere. So-
Mr. Bennett?
I had two questions, and you were kind of addressing it there at the end. How efficient are we, and this isn't a criticism, but just knowing staff time, about working as a team from the town, like planning, law enforcement, parks and rec, engineering, when we have a prospect, how effective are we, or efficient are we, or capable are we of working as a team with a client?
We're phenomenal.
Okay.
Just to put it out there bluntly, I think Scott and Dessa and I are going to meet with another conversation about another prospect that's with GWIP later this week. And we've always had that rapid response team with a member from engineering and from planning that have helped meet with me outside of development review committee meetings on Thursday or outside of other ones. Yeah, so they have been really great at helping me. The chief and the police department, getting stats, whatever I need, everybody's been pretty responsive.
So
I
you've
think
got two different processes, it sounds like, to address that.
yeah, we have several. We're pretty flexible, and mine is always speed to market because I want to get them the information as quickly as we can, and then so that they have the information. Because whether it's a site selector or a real estate agent, they're putting us in one big spreadsheet, and they're going to pick us and choose us, based off of that data. So if I can fill it in and get that information to them quickly, then they can actually have a better decision-making power down the road. So I want to develop that relationship and trust with the site selector, with the broker, with the company that says we're going to be responsive and we're going to get you that information and go above and beyond, usually, so that they feel like they have a comfort level of really making a really good decision about locating here.
And one other question, retail, some of the smaller shops coming in, well, I've seen this, a lot of times people have passion for their product or service. Do we get involved in helping them do any type of market analysis to help them be successful?
No, we don't have capacity for that in my office,
Okay.
but we do have, the Clearview Library has a business librarian that we refer people to. We refer people to the Small Business Development Center. We refer people to the Chamber of Commerce. And then what I do have is a relationship with CSU, with Tom Johnson, and he actually pulls us demographic reports and statistics, different tapestry reports, which talks about who's using what, when, where, and based off of zip code analysis. And I've done that recently with a lot of the retailers and restaurants specifically. We have like a $19 million gap in food and drink. And when people see that, they're like, oh, okay, well, we know that there's room to grow in Windsor, and that's just without our projections of the growth that we've seen in 2019. This is 2018 data, right? So as we grow and go down, there's going to be a higher demand for continuing that food and drink will continue to raise. And then, so I use those statistics and stuff like that to help companies. Specifically, when they're trying to do a business plan, our library actually has a business builder program that you can do it online and do a business plan, which is typically required to get financial assistance at a bank or a loan. So when they don't have those programs, there's other entities that we partner with that actually handle that are professionals at it. But then I can provide them with some of the demographics that just said, hey, okay, or I'm going to go to my investment group and show them this is the gap in Windsor, this is where we need to be because we know that we can make it there.
I think it's good that you can refer them to resources, because we want retail businesses to come here, but we want to be successful too. Right? So I
Exactly.
appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Jones?
You talked about these small industries, they want under 10,000 square feet. And are there speculator builders out there working now to provide it? Or is there a way we can get the word out that this is
Yeah, so I've
what
already
the demand is?
I already sent this out to a few developers. I handed it out to John Turner when he was in here tonight. So I usually send it out to our local developers or business ownership group. Then we post this on the website, so this will go up tomorrow, that gives that snapshot. That's actually how we got the other 3 to 4 spec buildings that were about 19 to 25,000 square feet, was because I believe our report that we've done in the last few years had shown that trend, and they all filled up. So it's really a good tool. It's not the only tool you need, but it really goes to show these are prospects that are looking all across northern Colorado, that we get these leads. Some are Windsor specific, but most of them are just in general Larimer, Weld County prospects. And so for us to show that data that they're seeing it's a trend, it's not just, oh, Windsor's saying this. I mean, lead sources are coming in from the state, they're coming in from upstate Colorado, they're coming in from the company that are showing this demand in space. So the cool thing about some of the buildings that they're building, like the one that's going up right now or should be going up vertical soon in Highlands, is that it's divisible. So that space can be divided into that square foot. Even though it's a 25,000 square foot building, you can still break it down into usable space, or what they call flex space, with a little bit of office and some warehouse in the back.
Okay, Mr. Soslowski?
Mayor? So if I think about it, and I don't know what all the criteria are, right, but they're certainly scoring various communities, and if, I'm guessing infrastructure, roads, water, sewer, et cetera, educated workforce, family environment, place where you would want to establish a business. What do you think is our biggest impediment or biggest challenge when we're trying to attract?
Water, but it's an impediment for everybody in Colorado specifically. From that standpoint, workforce is tough, but it's a global, or at least United States, it's an issue. The unemployment rate, is still under 3%. So those are some of the issues that we can't really address. So what I do is try to push up the opportunities and talk about the connections that we have with employment services of Weld County, with Larimer County, the screening processes for applicants, how many other industries are here like theirs that they have that workforce, that the state demographer is doubling our population by 2036 so that there is a future workforce coming in. So you just have to find the resources and the knowledge to help sell what you're doing, because some of the main impediments are that way. I will tell you that the cost of infrastructure in Larimer County, in the water side of things, is really high. It's 4 times our rate in Windsor, Weld Windsor. So,
Really?
yeah, so like a 4-inch water tap in Larimer is $400,000. In Windsor, Weld Windsor, it's $100,000 for a water tap. So that will be, I think, an impediment to some of the development that could occur in Larimer County. But that's something that we'll address when it comes along. There's always speed to market. People want to get up and get building and get going as quickly as they can. And you hit the nail on the head. The workforce is a huge issue. Do we have it? Is it coming? What can we do? Housing is an issue too sometimes, but when people talk about qualifying, because our housing is a little high, our cost is not the highest in the area, but a little bit higher. Then I sell and talk about the commuting patterns and the access to move your goods and services and people in and around the area. So that does tie into infrastructure as well for roads.
It seems to me Ames has been an excellent resource too for training programs.
They are go-to in
Particular
Weld
industry.
County. Yep, for Colorado First and existing training grant programs, they are go-to. We work with Front Range Community College for Larimer.
Yeah, good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we want as much grants as we can in Windsor and Northern Colorado too.
Anything else for Ms. Miller? Well, your enthusiasm never ceases to amaze me, even after, 9 years now?
8.5, yeah.
8.5,
We can
almost
call it
9
9,
years.
we're good, yeah.
So thank you for, so obviously, I think we're very fortunate that we have you at, spearheading all of this for us, because obviously you know what you're talking about, and you actually obviously share lots of excitement about wanting to bring folks to the community here, so thank you.
Well, thank you, and I couldn't do it without the team behind me or in front of me. So it is a team effort, and we all want to see it grow and grow well. So thank you, appreciate your support.
Sure. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
Moving on to item D, communications. Do we have any communications from the town attorney office, Ms. Ema?
No communications.
Communications from town staff. Anything further, Mr. Balstead? Does our police department have anything they would wish to report this evening? Okay. Communications from town manager.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Okay. Any communications from town board, Mr. Rennemeyer?
I'd like to clarify here, in the packet tonight, it talked about the Windsor Police Department's, July statistical report, and there was nothing there.
Okay.
There's
no attachment.
There's no attachment, there's no numbers, there's no handout, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, we can.
So whatever the stats are, I'd love to see them.
Right, yeah, maybe somebody stole them.
Maybe they got stolen. Maybe they are a stat.
Clean slate.
Can we get them stat? That would be good.
Thank you for pointing that out. I'm sorry, I didn't know that, so we can certainly see that that's sent out to the
There were
board.
weekly stats, and then weekly report, there was weekly. There were weekly stats.
That's a stretch. That's
Okay. Anything else? If not, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer with a tied for second, Mr. Suzeski and Mr. Baker. All in favor signify with yes, opposed no. We are adjourned. Thank you.
2 outliers here.
Hey,
2 outlaws.
Stacy? So